In this book, you've got what it is. It's kind of laid out as 6 weeks worth of reading, is the way it's kind of laid out. 6 weeks worth of reading, 5 days a week. So a woman could go through, and there's even little blank spaces throughout areas where they can write in information and stuff like that. It takes on the form of not just a book, but even a journal, which is a fantastic kind of resource. Now, each week follows a sort of theme. Can you kind of lay out what are some of those themes? What do those themes look like?
Right. Well, the first week really talks about hope, because I think it's the most important thing that women in this situation need, because you feel very alone and isolated. This isn't something, I think it's fascinating. A lot of churches are talking about this issue and starting to talk more about it, and I love that. I think that's important. And they may even do altar calls or opportunities for men to get help and come out and say, hey, I struggle with this. But there's not many opportunities for women to have those conversations. And so they feel very alone. So I start out with, talking about hope and the fact that while this comes as a shock to you, it isn't coming as a surprise to God. And he knew, and he's chosen to shine the light into this dark place. But when he does, anytime a light comes into a dark place, it casts additional shadows. And some of those shadows are in our own lives too. So I start out with hope. I talk about surrendering a lot of emotions and patterns that aren't productive, that aren't helping the situation, like that being in control. I think another emotion a lot of women struggle with is fear in this situation. There are just a tremendous number of fears that women have. And it can be from fear that her husband's going to lose his job, or maybe he has. There's a large percentage that do end up losing their jobs if they continue down this path. But also, fear that she's never going to trust him again. And so dealing with fear, dealing with guilt and anger, and just that, again, that pornography police that need to have control and managing the situation. And then we talk about trust, because that's really, truly the number one thing that's lost. This is this sin issue is shrouded in lies, and there's usually been so many lies it's hard to even separate, and recognize, well, what was a lie and what wasn't. And sometimes it's those lies that start to trip up, and that's how a woman will find out about this. So she has to figure out what this looks like and how does she rebuild trust. And in the area of intimacy too, how now what, because I think that's one of the number one places that is impacted, is obviously on the marriage bed, because it's been, betrayed. And so now how does she, develop trust or renew trust in an area where she makes herself so vulnerable? And so we really talk about that. And then we talk about the woman's identity, and that, we desire to be pursued and chosen and cherished, and how pornography doesn't allow that. A husband is making a choice that isn't his wife. She so wants to be his one and only, and she's not.
Right.
And so how do you deal with that? And really, we find our identity not in the choices our husband's making, but in Christ.
Right.
And so it's having to recalibrate toward, who does God say that I am? I mean, the enemy would want me to believe these things about myself because of what my husband's doing. But that's not what God says. This is who he says I am. And he says, I am chosen and I am his beloved. I'm the apple of his eye. I'm irreplaceable to God. And that's something that she has feels now with her husband, she has been replaced.
Right.
So again, it's just recalibrating to what and who God says that we are. And then we deal with our own brokenness, because the fact of the matter is, our husband isn't the only one who has a sin issue. We all have sin issues. And so what are the things that we're doing, not to make our husband do this? This isn't our fault. This is his choice. But what are some things we're doing that aren't helpful and that are our own sin issues, and they may not have anything to do with the pornography? And that's hard stuff. That's because we have black and white thinking, porn is bad and the choices he's making there are bad, so he's all bad. That makes me all good. And that's a lie too. So we address that. And then I keep forgiveness till the very end of the book. And then we tackle the forgiveness issue.